Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 10th in the year 2022, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Couple of big things this past weekend. One was the Kentucky Derby. I don't know if you saw that race or not, but it was awesome. And man, that horse kicked in at the end and he brought it on in. So it was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful race. I hope you saw it. Second thing that happened this weekend is we closed out Mother's Day, and I hope all of you had a joyful, blessed, and meaningful Mother's Day. Mother's Day seemed to gather more attention this year and is now celebrated in 40 plus countries around the world. My take: whether you're mother, grandmother, stepmother, mother-in-law, adopted mother, or the lady up the street who mothered you, whether the person is living or has passed, I hope you were able to honor them and appreciate what they hopefully gave to your life. Mother and mother figures like grandmothers give to us in so many different ways. Some teach through love and giving. Some teach through hard lessons. Some turn the nurturing and loving over to their own mothers, and the grandmother then becomes the guiding light. My mom passed away 22 years ago on October 31st, 1999. She was a wonderful influence in my life. She and my dad formed an incredible partnership that, with their main concern being their 3 children. They vowed to get us the best education they could and were always, always encouraging. I remember hearing my mom say one day, as she, my dad, and I sat around the kitchen table and they were debating my future. They didn't know I had plans of my own. Mom, speaking about me, told my dad, quote, "That boy can be anything he wants to be." All these many years later, I still remember her words and how important those words have been to me in my life. That boy can be anything he wants to be gave me a freedom to live the many adventures I've been fortunate enough to live. Motherhood, whether by birth, by law, by adoption, being a grandmother, or just through love, motherhood is to be respected and appreciated regardless of who that person is in your life. You're lucky to have someone who has loved you and taught you the lessons of life. Okay, well, we're going to move on with the show today. And this edition of Tuesday with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. On today's show, our G-List guest is Diane Fraser, Executive Director of the Emerald Coast Science Center. She is a member of Impact 100, Northwest Florida, and president of the local chapter of the American Business Women's Association, and she is a mother. Let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Barbara, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm having a good morning.
Very good.
I know last week you were talking a lot about Mother's Day, and I know you've got some Mother's Day comments for us.
I do, Thom. Of course, my mother passed away in 2005, so she's no longer with me, and neither is my grandmother. So I don't have my mother here with me, but there were wonderful memories of my mom and my grandmother and my aunts. And so I had a good day in that regard. And I don't have children of my own, but I have plenty of godchildren and nieces and nephews, and they took good care of me for Mother's Day. I received roses and gifts and cards and phone calls and all day coming in. So it was a blessed day for me. Thank you.
Well, if you go back to my opening comment that whether it's your mother, your grandmother, your stepmother, your mother-in-law, your adopted mother, the lady down the street, or your aunt,
Yes, right.
who mothered you,
Yes,
what matters is that you get what it is they're given, and
absolutely.
that they're able to steer you and to guide. Did you have a favorite grandmother story?
I'm sorry, a
Barbara?
favorite what?
A grandmother story. Your grandmother passed as well.
My grandmother was the best. My mother's mother, my father's mother passed away before I was born, so I don't remember anything at all about her other than just stories that they've told me. But my grandmother was the best. I loved going to her house on Sundays afternoons after church, and she was a great storyteller. She was funny in her own right, but she was an excellent cook as well. So I just remember going to her house, especially on holidays, Easter and Christmas, and just basically every holiday we were all getting together. And so my grandmother was the best.
Did you have a name for her other than like my grandmother?
That's all we called
okay.
grandmother. Her children always called her Ma, but all the grandchildren called her grandmother.
Okay.
Yes.
Why do you think grandmothers are so special?
Because they don't have to raise you. They don't have to do the discipline part of the thing. Everybody says if they knew that grandchildren were so much fun, they would have had them first. I hear a lot of my friends say that. That's the fun part. And I find that too, as being an aunt most of the time. You don't do the discipline. Everything you do with the kids are fun. They enjoy it. They're always laughing. You're laughing. Everybody's happy. You're giving gifts. You're giving them everything they want. If my nephews come over here now, they know I'm always going to have some type of special treat for them. If I go to their house, I'm taking them some type of gift or a special treat of some type. And, the nieces and nephews that are away, when I go to visit them, I'm always taking gifts with them. So, it's always a good time. It's a good exchange. There's not much discipline going on there.
I was about to say, you don't have to enforce the rules.
Absolutely. I break all the rules. The parents have to deal with it when I leave.
Yeah. I never, I only knew one of my grandparents, and that was my grandmother, my mom's mother, and
Right.
She died when I was about 12. But my dad's mother died before I was born, and my dad's dad, I did meet him, but he died in the early 1960s.
Oh, wow.
My mom's dad died before. Well, when I was real little, and so I didn't really get to know them. So
right, same with me. My parents, my father's parents, both died when I was my grandmother died before I was even born, and my grandfather died when I was maybe a year old. So I don't remember a lot about them. But both my mother's father and mother, I remember them very well. My grandfather on my mother's side died when I was in college, and my grandmother actually died after my mother did. So we had her for many years with us, and again, she was one dynamic, one woman. Had a great impact on my life. She was so classy. She was just a classy lady. She never went past high school, but she walked around like she had a PhD. I tell you, she was one special lady.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because people, wisdom comes in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to come from a book education, although it certainly helps. But that's my dad was like that. He was a very wise man. And,
yes.
Always talked about how he liked school, but he never got to stay in school because his dad would take him out to work the fields.
To work, absolutely. They had to. Right.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Michael Walker. And Michael, how are you, buddy?
I am doing well this morning, Tom. How are you? Barbara, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
I'm doing well. I've heard you over the years often speak of your grandmother. Well, both your grandparents, but this morning we'll talk about grandmothers. So tell us your favorite story of your grandmother, Mike.
Well, I don't know if I have a favorite, there's so many, but I'll tell you one that really resonated so well with me. And my grandparents believed in discipline, and everything has a place. you know it's something my grandfather used to say: everything has a time and place, and if you put it where it's supposed to be, you will never lose it. So they were big on that. But I recall coming home, I think I may have been in the third grade or something like that, and telling my grandmother I made a 99 on my test.
You were bragging, huh?
Yeah, I was like, look, I made a 99 on my test. And she said, why didn't you make 100? I said, well, nobody made 100. She said, I don't care about anybody else. I care about you. And since you didn't make 100, right, you need to restudy and take that test over again here. And I'm a grade because whatever you miss, it's going to come back. And next time you're going to know it. So let's get to it. So, and I've never forgotten that. And basically what she was trying to do was push me, to reach my full potential and whatever I did, so I've never forgotten that. Yeah.
Did you have a special name for her?
I did not. Again, I told you they were very conservative and proper. So my name for her was Mother, because I was raised by my grandparents. So my grandparents became my mother and father. And and she said, some people call their grandmothers Big Mama. Do not call me Big Mama. I'm not Big Mama. You call me grandmother or mom. You can call those your only choices. But there's no Big Mama in this house. So I never did do that.
I bet you didn't.
I was about to say, I bet you did.
Oh, you were going to try that.
That is interesting. I don't know. I think regardless of whether they were disciplinarians or whether they let you get away with stuff, whenever people talk about their grandparents, but grandmothers in particular, they're always smiling and grinning because that's just a special time and a special person.
Absolutely.
In your life. So Michael, I got another one for you. A little surprise. I heard this morning from Al Borges.
Yes, sir.
And I know that, you're a big football guy and you know the game in and out. And Al Borges was one of your favorites. And Al Borges, for those who don't know, was at one point the offensive coordinator at Auburn. And in the year when Auburn we went undefeated, was it?
Yes, 2004.
2004. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Michael, as a special treat for you, Al's going to come on the show at some point, and I know you'll have a good time with him.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait. He definitely took Auburn to one of their best years with Jason Campbell as quarterback, Ronnie Brown, and Cadillac as running back. And by the way, all three of those players, along with Carlos Rogers, went in the first round.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
that's right. Yeah.
Tom, you mentioned Coach Al Borges. He just actually sent me a message, so he's talking about his book. So I'm looking forward to having him on the show as well.
Oh, good. I think it'll be great. That was a special team.
Yes.
And I mean, we had some talent. I mean, we had, like you say, the quarterback and the running backs, so on and so, but we had to have a pretty good line.
Yes, we had a great defense too. I mean, the entire team, they were just awesome.
Yeah, and we didn't get the national championship. Who'd they give it to? Southern Cal? I say give it to them because that's what they did.
They did.
Well.
Go ahead.
I guess we want to say technically right now it's vacated. There's not one for that year.
They took it away from Southern Cal, didn't
they?
That's
right. Yeah. Right. Southern Cal won the game. They beat Oklahoma, I think 55-19. And that's when they revealed later on that Reggie Bush had been accused of taking improper benefits. His parents were given a house by USC while he was in school and playing during that year. So when that came out, they nullified that championship and they vacated it. And Auburn was the only remaining unbeaten team that year.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, Auburn played and beat more teams in the top 10 than either USC or Oklahoma that year. So that's part of why Al is saying Auburn should claim that national title, and it should be there.
Absolutely.
Well, it was. I don't think he'd get in. I know he won't get any argument from me because I thought they were awesome that year.
They were.
And, we're not as quick to claim them as some people.
I was going to say some people in this state claim them all the time. So I don't know why we don't just jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just as a background to that, people may be wondering why Auburn feel like they should be in position to claim it. Auburn didn't get to play in the national championship game because USC and Oklahoma were voted at the beginning of the year to be 1 and 2. Auburn was voted as number 18. But at the end of the year, Auburn was right there with them. And because at the end of the year, and that was back before they started the playoff system, Auburn was ranked 3rd behind Oklahoma and USC. So that's what kept them out of it. Whereas if they had this format today, Auburn would have been in the playoffs.
Right.
And if they had this format today, Reggie Bush probably would have got a mansion as opposed to just a house. They had the NIL, man.
Oh, true.
I bet you. Well, I've had a lot of athletes who say, man, yeah, they'd had that when I was coming along,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We got $15 a month, so it would have taken a big raise to get us.
That's still hard to believe. $15 a month, that's just so unfair. When the university was making tons of money, and the players got $15 a month.
They expanded the stadium. They did a lot of things when we were there. We won a lot of games, and
I know.
The tickets at that time were $7, and
students got in free. I don't think we paid anything for tickets.
Did you? Okay, I don't remember.
Yes,
I do remember how they would dress up, and the women would wear the little corsages or whatever.
Oh yes.
Guys would dress up in suits, and it'd be hot as heck out there, and they would be all dressed up. So
the fraternity guys still dress up like that, I think.
Do they really?
Yes.
Okay. And just one more thing, and associated with that is many people have heard of them, many people have not. But the 1972 team, which I was fortunate enough to be a part of, the Amazons, they were called because when you're picked to finish number 115 out of 118 and you finish number 5, that's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
There is a 50-year reunion for the Amazons this fall.
Wow.
And so it'll be very interesting. It was what is amazing and will be difficult for some people to believe today is that was the team that featured the first 2 black athletes on the football team, and that was myself and James Owens.
Yes.
So that'll be an interesting thing. Of course, James is not with us anymore, and I have to there's always something. So there's this guy who's doing a book, and he's put the cover of his book doesn't include James, and so that's bothersome for me.
Very much so. I can understand that.
Everybody talks about James as being the heart and soul of the team, and so you're not going to put him on the cover with everybody else. I just got an issue with that. So,
I can understand that.
Okay. Anything else before we move on?
Yes, Tom, since you talked about Mother's Day and May is we're in the beginning of May, so to speak, and we just celebrated Mother's Day, and everybody knows that with May, you have Mother's Day and Cinco de Mayo and Memorial Day weekend. I just like to throw in a few other fun facts in there about the month of May. And I was thinking about May. Only two United States presidents were born in the month of May. Harry S. Truman was born on May 8th, 1884, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born May 29th, 1917. And it's the only month of the year that no president died during the month of May.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. I couldn't believe President Kennedy was born in 17.
I know. I thought it was younger than that.
Yeah. Well, that was because he was so young when he became president. You always thought it was something else, but no, he was born in 1917. That's pretty interesting. My grandfather was born in 1914, so he was just 3 years older than 3 years younger than my grandfather.
And I know you got another point, but I think for many of us, baby boomer generation people, he was the first president you really recognized.
Remember? Yes.
He was
exactly.
And so when he was killed, it was just so tragic and so sad because it was like he was our president. We had a president,
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Couple other things. The Empire State Building was officially dedicated on May 1st, 1931.
Wow.
And it was once considered to be bad luck to be married in May. There was a saying, marry in May and you'll rule the day.
Why was it bad luck?
I have no idea, but that's what they say. A couple other things. The Catholic Church celebrates the Virgin Mary in May each year. I did not know that. And one last thing that's pretty funny. The first Saturday in May is known as Naked Gardening Day.
What?
The first Saturday in May for me is the Kentucky Derby.
That's also on the list, but since you mentioned that already, I thought I'd throw something out there that had not been mentioned, and I did not know that.
Yes, you guys, either one of you ever been in the Empire State Building or seen it?
I have not been inside. Of course, I've been in New York many times and seen the Empire State Building, but never been inside.
I haven't either. I'm just curious. Yeah. Okay. Anybody got anything else before we move on?
Well, Anthony says he was married in May 5th, 2018. And
Anthony?
Yeah, that's what Anthony said.
Tadashi? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And say Thursday marks his 4th wedding anniversary. So
congratulations, man.
Congratulations and happy anniversary, Anthony.
Good deal. Okay. Anything else? We're going to move on and let Sean tell us about Got a Minute. Okay. Hello, Sean.
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope everyone is well and in great spirits this week. Let's get into it. Sunday was Mother's Day, and I celebrated it with not only my mother, but my grandmother as well. It is truly an honor to represent one of 3 generations of women in my family. If you all are watching this, I heart you. Now, here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that a woman was elected to the U.S. Congress before women could even vote? Jeanette Rankin joined Congress in 1916, which was 4 years before women could actually vote. The 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, wasn't passed until August 18th, 1920. The quote of the day is, always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. Margaret Mead. Thank you for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move to the G list. Our G list guest today is Diane Fraser. Diane began her second act in 2015 when she became the director of the Emerald Coast Science Center. The Science Center has allowed her to exercise her love of science. She developed this love through a BA in chemistry and an MS in forensic science. She spent 5 years as a forensic toxicologist and 5 years as a research chemist for the FDA before taking a break to raise her two daughters. There's motherhood. Let's talk with Diane. Diane, are you there? Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Oh,
It's a
good.
beautiful day
Good.
on the Gulf Coast.
I hear you. I hear you. Did you clean that bookshelf off so it wouldn't look cluttered, or is it always like that clean?
So actually, I was also asked to speak at Techman this morning, which is the
Okay.
technology manufacturing group. And so I bumped into an empty office at the UWF campus. So
Oh,
that's why the
okay.
bookshelf is clean.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So tell us about the Emerald Coast Science Center. Just give us a quick overview and then we'll get into some questions.
Absolutely. So we were started in 1989 by the Junior League of the Emerald Coast. They decided that they felt we needed a place where kids could come together with families and reinforce those science principles that they learned in the classroom. And it's also a great way to reignite your passion and interest in science, even as an adult. Sometimes it's really fun to get in touch with your inner fifth grader, and think about all those things that you did and learned as a kid. And so we were at the landing. A lot of people may remember the Science Center from being on the landing. And in 2014, we moved to what used to be the city's Creative Senior Center. So it's on Memorial Parkway. It's about a half a block off the street. So it's not right there on your face when you drive down Memorial. And we're in the process of purchasing that building from the city. So we do make a mortgage payment to the city. A lot of people, get confused and they automatically think that all museums are funded by governmental agencies, and that's not the case. There's a lot of museums that are independent nonprofits, and as such have to be or are responsible for raising all the funds necessary in order to operate as a museum, basically operate as a business, even under a nonprofit status, in order to be able to pay your mortgage and your staff and your insurance and all of those other things as well. But yeah, we've really sort of nestled into the home on Memorial Parkway. It's an older building built in 1977, but it has almost 2 acres of property. And since the pandemic, we've really put a lot of emphasis on the outside area and in creating outdoor exhibits for everyone to come and see. So yeah.
What do you do if you got a kid like me who just didn't take to science at all? Just it's like, oh man, do I have to learn this?
So I think we just had this discussion at Techman this morning, and I think a lot of it is the way we talk about science. So I think that we don't do science justice. Science has incredible stories. Okay, so let's just talk a tiny minute about space. Okay, because we're all getting ready, gearing up for the Artemis mission. Okay, which is NASA's going back to the moon. So if we remember, the first time we went to the moon, it was the Apollo mission. Now we're going back to the moon at the Artemis mission. Well, Apollo and Artemis were twins. They are Greek gods, Greek or Roman gods, because everything in the night sky is named after Greek or Roman gods, right? So Apollo astronauts, if you look at them, look at a picture of them, all white men. Okay, 1962. When we look at the Artemis, okay, Apollo was the god of archery. Artemis is his twin sister. She's the god of the hunt, the god of nature, goddess, I should say. And the whole goal is to put the first woman on the moon and the first person of color on the moon. Well, I think that's incredible. I think that is so timely, and it is something that NASA had to be intentional about, because we weren't offering opportunities to diverse section of the population, back in the 1950s and the 1960s. Some people didn't have opportunities to be encouraged to pursue career fields in certain areas. And I think now we're actively working, and are intentional about making this available to everyone. And that's something that we really strive for at the Science Center, is that we want every child to see themselves as an astronaut, as an engineer, as a doctor, as a scientist, as a chemist, as a herpetologist. I mean, you can't be what you can't see. So we really have to focus on that. And that's part of the discussion we had this morning at Techman. But it's something that's ongoing. It's a really strong passion of ours. We always do a Women in Science event every fall where we invite local women in STEM careers. We do it at Northwest Florida State College in Niceville. It's like a little TED Talk. So these women get up there and they talk about, what their career is and what that journey was like. And it's not always a super friendly place still for women in sciences. But we want them to inspire that next generation.
That's great. I imagine, I never thought of it that way, but I imagine that may have been one of the reasons why I didn't take to science. I don't know. I wasn't real big on the sciences.
Well, and I think that also has to do, Thom, and that's a great point, because I think it also has to do with the way we teach science. I think we should use science to tell stories. Science is how we understand the world. It's not just facts and figures and graphs and numbers and equations. Okay, it's how we know our world works. And if we looked at science through the lens of wonder and discovery, we would feel incredibly different about it. I mean, incredibly different about the world around us. I think it has to do with how we teach it.
I agree with you. Okay.
And we have to teach it in ways that are sticky, like an idea sticks in your head, and you recall it later. And we also have to teach it in ways that make it relevant to your everyday life. How is this applicable? Why do I need to know this? When am I ever going to use this again? And it's important that we teach it to engaging and exciting. So we don't want a student or an adult to walk away and feel like, yeah, science is hard. That was frustrating. That just reinforced this negative opinion that I already have of science, right? So we have to approach it in a way that's engaging and exciting, so that when you're done, you walk away and you go, that was great. That was awesome. I'm going to look this up because I never knew that before. I'm going to go Google a little bit and see, a little bit more about this. So I think, again, it's just the way that we approach it. So can I tell you a science story?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So this is one of my favorite science stories. So we have a planetarium. It's a mobile digital planetarium. It's a big inflatable dome. Think of a bouncy house, right? But it's 13 feet tall and 30 feet round. So you can go sit inside of it. And when you're in there, the planetarium, the night sky is like 180 degrees around you. So it's surrounding you. So we take it to schools. We take it to daycare centers. We run it in-house a couple of nights a month as well. We do special programming inside of it. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really great. But I always like to tell this story. And this is the story of how Uranus was discovered. So Uranus was discovered by a scientist named William Herschel. He was Astronomer Royal in England. The year is 1781. So he uses a telescope to discover Uranus, because you can see all the way through Saturn with your unaided eye in the night sky. You can't see Uranus or Neptune unless you have a telescope. So he discovers Uranus and he goes, you know what? I'm going to name this planet George. I want to name this planet George because King George is the king of England at the time, and he wanted to curry favor with the king. So remember, this is the same exact time frame that we've just come out of our Revolutionary War. Okay. And so all the other astronomers said, no way, bud. We decided we're naming all of our planets after Greek and Roman gods. And he goes, okay, fine. I'm going to name it Uranus. Uranus is named after a Greek god. All the other planets are named after Roman gods. And then he says, and you have to name all the moons of Uranus, and there's 27 of them, after William Shakespeare characters. So I'm going to still stick it to you because I'm going to make sure that I get my Britishness in there somehow. And so all of them, or William Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. So there's a Juliet, there's Desdemona, there's Cupid, there's Puck.
Wow.
So isn't that fun?
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about science like that,
Yes.
it's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
that
and that'll stick with you. And you'll think about that. And you think, yeah, William Herschel, man, he stuck it to him. You know, he wasn't going to let them take away, you know, he wanted to do something to put his Britishness in there. And he was able to find a way to do that. So I think it's how we approach it and how we talk about it. I mean, there's ways to make it interesting. There's ways to make it fun. There's ways to make it relevant too. So I have one more story to tell you. Okay, thanks. There's a great book. It's called Lab Girl, and it's by Hope Jaron. And in the preface of the book, she says, look outside your window. Look at a tree. She said, we can't make a tree. Trees don't need us. Okay, we can make a skyscraper. We can send somebody to the moon. We can build bridges. We can, you know, explore the deep sea of the ocean, you know, the bottom of the ocean, but we can't make a tree. And then if you look closer at your tree, look at the leaves. How tall is your tree? Do the leaves fall? Is it seasonal? And ask a question about your tree. Now you're a scientist. Because to be a scientist, all you have to do is ask a question. And I think when you look at that tree, I think you can have a moment of like wonder, a moment of discovery, a moment of looking at something and going, you know, I hadn't ever really thought about it like that. That tree is amazing. That tree is awesome. You know, it doesn't need me. It's going to do its own thing. It makes its own food. It provides shelter. It's a home. It makes oxygen, you know, and we never think about it like that because we never just stop and say, the world is a wonderful place. We're too busy, you know, I've got a to-do list or I'm on my phone or, you know, and I think if we stopped and thought about it, it would bring peace to us. You know, because it would be like, yeah, that is so cool. I'm so glad that I thought about that today because now my whole perspective about the rest of my day is changed because I just had a moment of, aha. Okay, I'll be quiet and let you ask questions. Sorry.
I think we all just had a moment of aha.
Yes, we did.
Michael, Barbara, which one of you want to go first?
Good morning, Diane. How are you?
Good morning. Great.
I guess
I'm intrigued by the the Science Center there and looking at the information that's presented online. Now, if someone wants to visit, you've given the address where you're located, but what about the hours of operation and is there a admission charge?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Great. So like I said, we're an independent 501c nonprofit with a mortgage payment. So we do charge admission and we are open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday right now. But starting June 1st, our summer hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So the only day we're closed during the summer is on Sunday. And the hours are a little bit longer. So it's $12 for adults and $10 for kids. All the way up to age 18, and then children under 2 are free.
Okay. What about group rates? Are there group rates available?
Yes, they are. Group rates for more than 15 people are available. $8. I think a group rate is $8. I have a colleague here because I don't know a lot of stuff about the Science Center.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but yeah, I thought that may be interesting for our viewers.
That's fine. It's, you know, sometimes I don't get all the details quite right.
Right.
Let me clarify before we go a little further that the Emerald Coast Science Center is in Fort Walton Beach.
It is.
Because we've got people all over watching us this morning. And so many of you who come to the beach, who come to Fort Walton, Destin, Pensacola, Panama City, the science center is there for your taking, so to speak. So
Yes.
And
make
that's
that
really
a part
good.
of your trip.
I was gonna say that's really good to know, because a lot of families come down to the beach, and if it's raining or something and they can't get out to the beach, they're always looking for something else to do. So, they can go to the movies at
With the
home, but
kids.
knowing that there's a science center there, I think that's an excellent option for them to have. So that's great.
So what I'll tell you is we're busy in the summer. June, July, and August. June is probably our biggest month as far as walk-in admissions. And you're absolutely right about the rain. I mean, if it's raining between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning, we will be packed, because there's not a lot of other things to do. The other thing that we notice is just that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are busier than Monday and Tuesday, because if you get to the beach on the weekend, you've gone to the beach for like Monday, Tuesday, you're sunburned, you're hot, the kids are driving you crazy. You just want to go someplace where they can just roam free, and it's air conditioned. So yeah, exactly what you said.
That's great.
Okay, Michael.
Yes. Good morning, Diane, and welcome.
Good morning.
You bring up a lot of interesting topics, and so I have a couple of questions. But one thing I want to ask you, when you talked about getting the first African American on the moon, and first person of color, and a woman, and what have you, I want to ask you, because most recently we had an American astronaut and 2 Russian astronauts, I think, that were up in space at a space station. They had been doing some things, and then all of a sudden a war breaks out down on planet Earth,
right,
between Russia and Ukraine, and you have this American astronaut up there that's basically kind of depending on them for his survival up there. Tell me how hairy that could have gotten. And I guess from what I've heard, it kind of worked out okay, but that had to be a scary moment for the American astronaut, I think.
So I think that space is that one place that draws us all together culturally. And I think that cooperation, because we're not even sending rockets from the United States to the space station. So to get to the ISS, none of those are taking off. Well, they are now, but none of those had for a number of years been taking off from the United States. We had been relying on Russian locations to get people in and out of space. I think with SpaceX, we are now sending them up there. But it's just. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we still have things that bind us together. So even the International Space Station, this is something that still is a common goal for us. And I love too, when we talk about space, I love that whether you live here or whether you live in Russia or whether you live in England or whether you live in Africa, Saturn is Saturn. It's the same name everywhere, and that wasn't decided by us. That was decided by the Greeks and the Romans. And they've been telling those stories in the night sky. Think of all the constellations and the zodiac signs. Those stories are 2,000 years old. And when we look at the night sky, now the way that they told all of their stories, how they understood the world, they put them in the night sky. And we're still talking about that 2,000 years later. All of us collectively, everybody around the whole entire world shares those same stories. So I think space is especially one place that we can find a commonality, a global commonality when we talk about space and what's going to happen there next. I mean, we want to go to Mars. I mean, that's a huge ask, So yeah, I do see that, that was an issue. Still is, and probably will be for a little while. But that when we do these, we just launched the James Webb Telescope, because the Hubble telescope, we're not sending space shuttles, so they couldn't go make any repairs on it. So the Hubble telescope is going to become obsolete. So they just launched the James Webb in December. Well, that was NASA, the European Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency. So this was a collaborative effect of a lot of different organizations across a lot of different countries. So I think that's that one place that we can still have some great commonality and some great partnerships and cooperation.
Interesting. Interesting. So in the words of the Star Trek commander, space is the last frontier then.
Yes.
Well, it's so funny when we talk about that, because we actually, in some cases, know more about space than we do about our oceans, like the depths of our ocean.
Yes.
Just because we don't have the capabilities yet to create the type of vessels that we can get all the way down there. Because of the pressure, the amount of pressure. So sometimes it's easier to send a probe to Venus, although we haven't been successful at that either. But it's easy to send a probe to Mars, right? We have a lot of them on Mars, but we can't get all the way down to the surface of our planet underneath water. So there's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of discovery left to be made. Yes. I mean, we look at our planet, we think that we know all these things about it. But there's not. There's so much more to learn and so much more to do and so much that we need to protect and preserve, because we don't know what's going to happen if all of a sudden insects disappear. I mean, that's one thing that we're talking about, the decline of insects. Well, hey, they're the foundation and the base of a food chain of a lot of different organisms.
Yes.
If we lose insects, what happens after that?
Well, can we discriminate with the insects and get rid of the mosquitoes?
There are few that I would like for us to get rid of. Totally.
Did you guys not watch Lilo and Stitch? In that movie, like the aliens are like, no, Earth is a habitat for the endangered mosquito. It's the only reason they saved us.
So I got a question for you. So it's raining and people decide to come to the Science Center. What are the fun things that the kids will enjoy and learn in the Science Center?
So we have over 40 animals. We have snakes. We have all types of lizards. We have sugar gliders, hedgehogs, guinea pigs. We have parrots. We have a tortoise, about a 30-pound tortoise. And all of those animals are rescues. So all the animals we have, it's a kind of eclectic a collection of them. They're all donated to us. So people will call us, they're exotic pets, basically. So they're not wild animals. And they will ask us like, hey, can you take this? So we just got a savanna monitor. Okay. And we had to build a habitat for her. She's about 3 feet long. Would you say 2.5, 3 feet long? She's about 3 years old. Her life expectancy is in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 years. And so we had somebody build a habitat for us, like a huge, it's 4 by 8 by 4. And we just got her on the floor and put out for guests to see her. And the next thing to do is to see if we can sort of work with her to where we can get her out and play with her. But we do animal presentations. We call them creature features. They're going to be going on during the summer. We have all sorts of special activities. We have a chemistry corner on Fridays. We're going to be doing live chemical experiments, and the kids will have a little hands-on activity to do after that. We got the STEAM bus, which is a school bus that was turned into a science lab. That's on our property now. So we're going to be doing hands-on educator-led activities on the bus Wednesdays and Thursdays during the summer. We have just exhibits throughout the museum that the kids can play on and play with. We just, when the pandemic started, and it was incredibly scary for all museums because they were all closed for 3 months. And then we went 2 years without field trips. So for museums, field trips are like your mortgage maker, because you can make a couple $100s a day off of a field trip. You've got like 80 kids, 100 kids, they're coming on a field trip. That's huge, 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 huge. And we went 2 years without that. And that was terrifying and devastating. Now, thankfully, since January of this year, they've come back. So we spend a lot of time working outside. We have almost 2 acres of property. So we put an exhibit on boating. So we have a pontoon boat that sits on the ground, a canoe, a kayak, a wave runner, all the different rules and regulations that kids can climb on every bit of it and play on it and pretend. We built a tree house in a group of trees that we have. So they're actually in the trees. We built a dinosaur dig area that has a cover over it. Right now, we are working on a project based on the Florida Trail, which is a through hike that you can do. Starts at Fort Pickens and ends at Big Cypress Swamp. Depending on which route you take, it's about 1,200 miles. And we're working with ADSO, the Arts and Design Society, and they are painting a mural to match like the environment of that section of trail. So we have like a Fort Pickens end, and then as you walk and you kind of turn the corner, because Florida's shaped like an L, and then at the end you end up in Big Cypress Swamp, so that section of the fence is going to be painted like a swamp, and the first section is painted like a beach, and then as you move through it, it kind of like mimics the woods and stuff that you would see on the trail. And we've gotten native plants and animal statues that you might see. So we're hopefully going to have that open by June 1st. So when the summer gets here, it won't be completely complete because it's going to be like a work in progress over probably the rest of this calendar year, but that will be open as well. So lots to do, lots of fun things to see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Michael,
and
Barbara.
I was going to say, for the children who can't visit, I think you offer virtual workshops as well, or virtual programs. Tell us about that.
We did that especially during the pandemic. We tried to do, just to keep our educators employed, to keep, people engaged, to sort of still remind people about museums and things like that, and to offer kids an opportunity, a different educational experience because everybody was at home. So we went online. We have a whole set. We do have a YouTube channel. You can go find all of those videos on our YouTube channel. We do a program called Curiosity Live on Instagram on Fridays at 11, where it's just a couple minutes long, but it's just some fun fact or some, today in science, or like in the month of February, we focused on an African-American scientist. And then in March, because it's Women's History Month, we focused on women scientists. So, it's just something simple like that. But we do still have virtual programming. On Friday night of this week, we're doing a virtual creature feature with Edwin's Elementary School. So we're going to be in our animal room, and the parents can sign in on the Zoom link, and we're going to pull out the animals and talk about the animals. And I think each 30 minutes is a different grade level.
That's great.
That's cool.
So there's still opportunities for that as well.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Michael?
Well, I had read earlier, Diane, that you talked about the museum losing about $109,000 due to COVID and what have you, and the losses that were, piling up. What have you been able to implement to mitigate? And as you were talking earlier, I was wondering if you guys did a summer camp and how that may be. If you had a place where kids could stay overnight and you did a summer camp, I think that would probably be a moneymaker for you.
I think my educators would quit en masse if we did an overnight camp. So here's the way that we made it. And you're absolutely right, Michael, because we were closed those last 3 months of the year, which are actually full-blown field trips season. Because if you think about it, they're done with their big testing. It's the end of the school year. Everybody goes on field trips, the last 9 weeks of school. And we went to the community and we said, hey, we're really scared. We don't know what's going to happen. The American Alliance of Museums put out some information about how they thought 30% of museums might permanently close due to the pandemic. Wow. So we were super scared. We were super honest and transparent. And the community stepped up. So we got donations on Facebook that were like $5, $500, $1,000. We had some businesses, Mills Heating and Air, made a huge donation that year. They're a local HVAC company, and they give out like $100,000 a year to local nonprofits, and nobody knows about it. They're super quiet about it. Eglin Federal Credit Union Oh my gosh, those guys are amazing. They do so much in this community. But the reason we survived is because of that. Is because people in the community said, there's nothing else like that here. We want to make sure that this place stays here, that when we get through the pandemic, that there's still this place to take kids and families and have these opportunities. And the nice thing is like when the kids came back on field trips, so when they come back now on field trips, it's a completely different science center than 2 years ago. Completely different. Because we spent this downtime, creating new exhibits, putting stuff outside. We reached out to all the home builders in the area and said, hey, we're really scared. We want to work on these outside exhibit ideas. Here's a list of materials we need. And Whitworth Homes and Watchery Homes both stepped up and said, hey, we'll buy whatever. And this is before lumber got crazy expensive because it was 2 years ago. But it fulfilled every single one of those needs so that we could build all these great outdoor exhibits. So it's not my science center. It's my community's science center, because it takes a lot of people to create what we're trying to do. So.
Well, congratulations. That's a tribute to your hard work and what you and your staff at the Science Center has been doing. So I commend you on that.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, my staff is incredible. Oh my gosh, I am so fortunate to work with the group of people that I do. I have my development coordinator, grant writer. They got sent to Clovis. Her husband's a pilot, and they got moved back to Clovis. And she's like, do I have to quit? And we're like, no, you don't have to. So she pops up on the computer in a Zoom room, and is still part of the team. So it's like she's still sitting in the office with us. She's just doing it virtually. But it's a great group of people.
Good.
Diane, would you like to sum up with something before we take off?
Yeah, I would.
Unfortunately, we have to go, but go ahead.
I would absolutely just stay curious. Ask questions. Learn something new every day. Look at something that you totally take for granted and do a little bit of a deeper dive into it. You'll find out that when you do that, it actually makes you feel good. That moment of wonder, that moment of discovery, it really changes the way that you look at things. And visit your museums. Visit all your museums. So anytime you come across a museum in your travels, pop in, say hi. Because a lot of these museums only exist because somebody is passionate about that subject matter.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It was wonderful.
All right, let's give Diane a hand.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, man, that was wonderful. Thank you, Diane, and the Emerald Coast Science Center. And I've never been, and I'll have to go. Let's see, where are we here? So our closing commentary for today goes back to revisit Mother's Day, and it's something I read this weekend, and it says, a mother's love, a mother's care, a mother's concern, a mother's hopes and dreams. We celebrate mothers, grandmothers, and other mother figures for their special relationships, their special bonds, their special roles in society. I'd also like to say I think the Emerald Coast Science Center sounds really wonderful, and hopefully I'll get there soon. And I think today is my good friend, my growing up friend, Manuel Cheney Jr., otherwise known as Manuel Cool. I think today is Manuel Cool's birthday. And if I'm a day or two off, Cool, forgive me, but happy birthday, brother. And that is how I see it on May 10th in the year 2022. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. I want to thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-List guest, Diane Fraser. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer. And remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.